So thank you, everyone. We are coming to the end of this, for me at least, a very useful, very, unexpected in many ways, very, very rich seminar. But we don't want to go away just congratulating ourselves. We'd like your feedback. Maybe some things didn't work out also. You could tell us that. But we really want to think about what are some next steps that would help different stakeholders. We don't promise to do all of it because we're not sure we can, but it would be useful to know what the meeting feels like, what many of you have experiences in other states, and many of you are young researchers, so we'd like to get your feedback. So we wanted to identify what could be some research priorities, but also how to help researchers. And therefore we thought of 3 areas. We don't have to restrict ourselves to that, but just to get the conversation started. And we have one person to kick off the discussion in each area. So one is about helping young research scholars, both with research ideas as well as with research, training, right? Supplementing what they get in their formal education. And Manjima is going to kick off with some ideas. She herself proposed some, and then she has also talked to students. Second area is about the kind of bigger studies we could do, which in Kerala there aren't many, as Anusha tried valiantly to look for some, and so have we. And either you find minuscule studies or you don't find any at all. So what would you suggest based on your researches, in the area of multilinguality, on teacher education and assessments, bigger kind of studies? And the third area is what, maybe Suraj and I could kick off, which will be about what could be not research studies as such, but synthesizing research and putting forward either position papers or broader discussion papers for the broader society. What shape should that take? How should it be disseminated? Who should participate in it? These would be the 3 areas that we would like to consider. So we'd like to close by about 4, which is actually sooner than our seminar official closing, but I know many people have to leave also, and our students also may wish to leave. So I'm going to start off with Manjima, who I have to say is an exceptionally talented and brave researcher, because she takes up challenges very easily. And she was the one who came up with this idea, so I want to give the floor to her.
So we have come to the session where we discuss how we take all the rich discussions we had in the seminar ahead. So one of the practical solutions that came to my mind was to help current researchers. As a research scholar, I have also struggled, wanting guidance at various junctures. So, and when we began discussing the seminar and we began reviewing the existing research, we saw that there was a significant gap in research on many pressing issues. And one of the reasons this happens is also because research scholars do not always have the adequate guidance from experts in the field to take their ideas forward. There are many very passionate researchers that I know personally, but it is not that all of us get the support from the experts in the field all the time. So then one topic that came up is how do we help students with their research methodology? Specifically, how can we translate a broad topic of interest into something very focused, something rigorous, and which eventually turns into a publishable research study. So it's this gap in guidance which often leaves a lot of early career researchers feeling very uncertain about how do we structure our work, how do we execute it effectively, and so on. So we are planning to organize a research methodology workshop featuring a panel of experienced researchers. Thank you, Karthik, Dr. Karthika, for sharing how she proceeds, helps her researchers deal with such issues. So research scholars can be invited to submit brief presentations, probably 2 or 3 slides in advance, where they outline their topics, their methodological concerns, and the specific challenges that they face. So during the workshop, the expert, we can always also have an expert panel, and the expert panel can provide tailored feedback and guidance to the researchers to help refine their approach and tackle various challenges that they face in their research. So I think we often complain about the low quality research that is being published, and we often tell our research scholars to publish in research journals, but they need help. We discuss scaffolding. Research scholars also need that kind of scaffolding and support. Just by listening to all the panelists here, I benefited a lot in taking my very small study forward. So I think it should be accessible to all researchers. So I think it will be a very crucial platform for fostering high quality research, and we can build the capacity of emerging research scholars. We complain about India published research in India, and all of that can be. It could be a good platform to spearhead that and to get it started. So that is one of the thoughts I have on this.
So that's just one idea, but if there are other suggestions from either the students or from any of you, and I think Suraj and I had also discussed this, so I'm sure you have some suggestions to any
research scholars here, ma'am.
Yeah. Are there any research scholars who would like to speak? Yeah. I don't know if there are people on Zoom.
Online people, so.
So, hello all, and I would like to add something to it, what Manjima was saying right now, that is regarding the research platform, or maybe regarding the meetings that we wanted to conduct and all. So, I would like to add something that is like, I want to make sure that the prototype researchers, or maybe the researchers in the pre-research area, they need to get all, or they are the ones who really want to have it. Because like the ones who are obviously wanting to get into research, they might be getting something or the other from their colleagues, or maybe they might be wanting to get, and they might find a way. But the people who are actually out there, maybe the final year PG students, or maybe the people who are actually like trying to get into NET or anything like that, or maybe one of the exams related to it, they might be wanting to have it, and also at the same time they want to get more of a guideline or more of a guidance related to how to do a research, or what are the topics that they could be involved into, or they could be pushing themselves into getting into some sort of interdisciplinary research, as well as the kind of the conventional way in which the research has to be done. Because as far as I am concerned, my research is an interdisciplinary one. So I might be needing people from the other disciplines also, and I might be finding it difficult to get people from the other parts, because like it might be including for the technology part, or maybe the science part, or maybe anything associated with it. Let it be economics also. But if there are certain things which would encourage the postgraduate students, or maybe who are actually willing to do it, if certain things are being encouraged within those sectors, then I would think that would be more beneficial, along with the idea of having it being discussed with the newbie scholars like me.
Hi. What I wanted to share is that, I'm a researcher, and I have had the pleasure of meeting a lot of people who are really enthusiastic for joining research. And they kind of vary from MA students to homemakers, IT professionals, school level teachers who are very much enthusiastic about research. But the problem is that they have no clue where to begin. They have interest areas, but they don't know how to find a topic, a relevant topic for research, how to place it in the research paradigm, to devise a methodology, and to navigate the research gap. So those are people who really out there, and they really need the help, and they don't know whom to consult, where to begin. They're kind of even intimidated by the academia because of all the gap that they have encountered in their journey of education. So if there is a platform to help those people, it would be great. And another thing is that even for those people who have joined research, the thing is the kind of feedback that we receive are only mainly through maybe SRF presentation, annual reviews, and all that. But I've seen researchers who have had very difficult pre-submission presentations where they have to encounter a lot of difficult questions, and have seen people really struggle during those moments. So if there is a kind of opportunity where these people can have feedback before, maybe not towards the final or the fag end of their research, but at the right time, and if there is a kind of safe space where we all can share our research, where we can voice our doubts and concerns, and where we'll get our guidance without the fear of being judged and all that, that would also be pretty good, I guess, because Professor David Johnson sir was also saying learning is not just an individual endeavor. It is more about mentoring that individual by providing him all the guidance that is required from the more knowledgeable other.
And just very quickly, like I'm a PhD student at CDS. So I just want to reiterate what my friend also said. Like the focus on interdisciplinarity would be great. Like, for example, education itself, we have seen in 2 days have been looked into various perspectives, like from the people in the education departments and universities to economics, people from development studies. So this, I think, sometimes I've seen my friends being stuck into the disciplinary compulsions. So these can be taken up for research. Like, for example, in the mainstream economics thing, education is taken as human capital. And now there's a lot of discussion on skill development. Like, is skill development different from education? So these things, like disciplinary terms, could be discussed. That's the small.
I am Anusha, Kartika, Minati, and I would also like our teacher colleagues to think a little bit about, what would be helpful to promote research, small research among teachers.
So, 3 things you pointed out, I don't know your name, but you pointed out how there are homemakers, community people who are not necessarily in the research and academia space who also want to do research, be part of research perhaps. And the question that I have is what is going to be CDS scope is, I think, something that you should be thinking about. Because say there's a community like ResearchGate community that people can join, you can create a project of it, and think about how there could be modulated discourses in that space of researchers as community practitioners, and think about, building these. In CET, we have worked out with teacher education institutions and tried to do this exact same scope that you were talking about, as presentations being made, even pre-proposal stage, even when they were having an idea, what kind of methods could they look at, what could be the readings that they would have, or whom could they approach to understand more of the field or what is being done. But it's really, I don't know what the scope is, and I think that needs definition as well if we are going to be widesprung or more focused in research. But definitely building a community of practitioners as a platform. It could be that you use something as simple as ResearchGate community, which is already available, and people join in with an email ID, and it is open and accessible, or maybe moderated. And I would recommend something that's email-based of that sort, and which is very research-focused, because it enables us to connect to more other research-based communities of practice. So that's the first point. The second point is, I wonder if we want everyone of researchers to always be doing end-to-end products. I really have a problem with research being constantly now recognized as an individual endeavor, whereas it could be collaborative. There could be someone doing data collection, someone else doing data analysis, someone else doing the research writing on their own. That is exactly what international research is really focused upon. But here we seem to be really intrigued and focused very much on just one person doing everything end to end. And I would wonder if we want to encourage some of these other collaborative processes. So even with the SCRT studies, for instance, with the diets, I realized that if every diet had taken up the same study, it would have given a more composite picture of Kerala. But everyone was doing very individualized distributed studies, and that did not therefore give us any comprehensive view of Kerala, differentiation between North and South or something. So if there could be that kind of engagement with SCRT, for instance, and guidance in terms of, focused engagements. And the third part is a lot of our topics right now have been really focused on having identified some of the gaps. So where can we then move forward, and whom could we reach out to as practices to be able to take up these researchers? I think some of us from here itself are definitely interested in thinking about those research. So how can we take forward that channel? What could be the community group that we can formulate for that? So yeah, largely the first and last points were the same.
My response is to you. Are you a PhD scholar, you said? Okay, so this is not for early career researchers like me who are into the field of teaching, but for people like her. We have recently organized some research colloquium, which was actually from conceptualization to drafting. So this was tedious, very meticulously organized one. We had a team of researchers, and this was like for literature and for language studies. So we had two teams parallelly working one-on-one with the participants. Yes, that's why I said we didn't have sleep enough, because students used to chase us with their sad stories, sob stories. We had to sit through that, do a bit of counseling as much as we could handle. And, listening to them actually enriched all of us. At the same time, it was quite working for them as well. And 1 week, that means 6 days actually, 6 days from 9:30 to 5:30, we worked like this with occasional breaks in between. And the students, the PhD students were able to draft their proposal once again. They had some kind of ideas initially. We could shape that into a full-fledged proposal. Along with that, we were able to draft a kind of baseline study for the ELT researchers and gave some clear-cut input for the literature-based scholars. Now comes the question of interdisciplinarity that he has said. Economics and something else, I can't comment on that. But artificial intelligence and English language teaching, we had a couple of people from computer science department as well. Translation, when we had translation, then somebody from IIT BHU came for, the technical aspect of it when we had to discuss machine translation and all. So such kind of interdisciplinarity, if we bring into the colloquium, that complicates things for the organizers and for the panels. But I have found that to be quite beneficial for the students, and the number of students were restricted to maximum 20, not more than that, and the panelists were 8 in numbers, and they were working simultaneously. So for all the 6 days, this was one way in which we could generate some kind of clear outcome focusing on individual needs. And it was not like I was working with student A for the entire 6 days period. We had taken turns. There were common sessions for all of them. And when we are thinking about this kind of a workshop, we are talking about research methodology, which is quite common for humanities and social sciences. We're not talking about the science methodology where people are dragged into a lab and then, doing things. So that was, that was that. And something else I wanted to say, but I forgot, I think. So this is one way of responding to that. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. I am Rajlakshmi and I am PhD student here. So first of all, I would like to thank all the organizer and organizing committee members for organizing this seminar. Unfortunately, I could not attend some of the sessions because I was sick. But it is very enriching, and I work on education. Particularly, my work involves this parental involvement and learning outcomes of children in India. So one thing I feel is that first is like when we look the educational issues in India, like the issues right now India faces, particularly this children's learning and all. it feels like most of the works that development practitioner, NGO and all have been working on it. But when we look at the research by the researcher, like the PhD students and all, it's kind of like the empirical evidence-based research as we see some of the projects are going on, but as per like when the researchers doing, it's kind of, I mean, like to me, it feels like I also face some challenges that even for the guidance and all. And then secondly, so two suggestions, like I feel like for organizing this kind of workshop or conference, one would be like those who have who are research aspirants. For them, one different kind of workshop, and for the PhD students, it would be different. For instance, I have attended many conferences and workshops in my case, but I feel like the inputs that I get from the conferences, which might not be that much helpful to me, because the discussion there may not be from the education background. So, and it would be more like the technical kind of like, as I am also an economist. I mean, my background is in economics, but then this kind of things I often get. But something lacks is like the conceptual things and like I mean, the theories and all. So that kind of things I often don't get. So for this, like for the PhD students, if it would be different kind of workshop, then it would be helpful. And for the aspirants, if it would be different. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Keep time on this section so that we don't miss out on the other two. So we have, I think, Lena Minity, and then Manjima can just summarize what's online, right? If there is anything. Yeah.
So just to add to what Manjima and Anusha, voiced, I think in addition to supporting researchers from higher academia, it would be good to also think of supporting teachers and teacher educators as research, because if we are trying to push for research and make a research culture more visible and more practical, I think we need to go from all directions if that is possible. And I'm happy to help in any possible way that is to be done. One. And second is, one of the things that we could do is, like, from this 2-day seminar, we have realized that certain issues have cropped up, which are very much contextualized and need some local attention. So if there could be some way of disseminating these ideas to respond to one of the students who said that, how do we get a researchable idea? So to kind of educate them that, okay, these are some of the issues in education, language education, that are impending in Kerala and also, other places, that would be a very good practical starting point, because then we will be getting researchers who are oriented towards the issues which are impending, and we could take them forward. So I think in that way, it would be, over time, it would be more. I'm just thinking of, as a teacher, educator, researcher of long-term basis, not as something which is enthusing us now and we may not be able to carry forward. But one request, I'm just responding to one of the participants online, that, I think WhatsApp is crowding our communication space unnecessarily. So if we really want to have a focused group, let us have a Google group, Google group mail, where lots of possibilities can be explored, and we can have a Google Drive or a Google Suite where we can post materials and things like that. And one last thing, a colleague of mine and me from EFLU, we are about to do a MOOCs research methodology course for language and social sciences. So hopefully it will get done by the end of this year. And once it gets done, I would definitely share the news with you guys. And so and we are consciously going to use research design templates from India-based research and research that has been happening in, practice and higher education. So we really want to do that. So we are on the job. Thank you.
What I heard is, actually we hear from all our students as well. What I find with my students, our students rather, in the center, is that if their engagement with the discipline is very conceptual, in the sense it's also historical, where do these concepts come from? Like suppose I use the word cognition, where did it come from? How did it become a concept now? And you will realize that it is invariably an interdisciplinary concept. Anthropologists have contributed, psychologists have contributed, philosophers have contributed hugely. And then once we are familiar with that historical trajectories of knowledge, generation, and we are able to, we get a skill to engage with them conceptually, then we can do one thing, that is asking a research question. Many times my students ask questions which are questions about the field. The research question is a sharp researchable question. So I think if we really have a good research question, 50% job is over, done. Because all these one has to go through. Okay, it's not easy because the problem is not with students. The problem is with how we teach, what curriculum we bring in. We don't expose our students to original readings. We don't treat concepts as interdisciplinary concepts. There are many transdisciplinary research happening. So it's our failure. If you are not able to imagine a good research program or carry that out. My advice would be that there are many very good reading groups, you find across the world. And don't be very method-centric. No. If you are not able to imagine, there is something, the problem is in the way we understand the discipline or disciplines. So while you train yourself in method, I think you need to constantly engage with the discipline, and then methods will come. And research, if it is method-driven, then it's not a good research. Research shouldn't be method-driven. My third suggestion is, you have RSC, Research Advisory. Okay, just 1 minute. I know you don't have time. If you have RSC and RSC has faculty from other disciplines, that will help. Okay, just quick information. We are doing critical discourse analysis, where we are discussing both transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary research on 17th February 2025. As part of pre-conference workshop of now National Academy of Psychology. It's a face-to-face one. If you want, I can just put an online connection. If you want to join, I can bargain and do that with my organization. Second, we have started a movement mostly by women, new psychology movement. We're losing faith in the patriarchy giving us much. So, there are men, but more women-driven kind of movement. So we decided to do one research method seminar every year, where we will be discussing fundamentally ontological and epistemological questions. And then, of course, all the methods, but we'll do more of these. So I can send that announcement to you once it is out.
So I think we will, that was a very rich set of comments and suggestions. Are you summarizing anything online?
So that they have agreed to the idea mostly, and they would like a Google group.
Yeah. So thank you for all the comments, and thank you especially to the students. As I said, not sure whether we can do all of it, some of it, but I'm really happy to hear that many of our colleagues here are willing to help and support, right? With this.
Yeah, and at the least, maybe the Google group as a start, just to have people on board, and then maybe something can evolve, right? So I think we can start with that connection being established, not WhatsApp but some way of connecting, and I think something, yeah.
Me? Okay, thank you. Whatever ideas I put down in about 10 minutes is sort of raw, although I've been thinking about it since I came here yesterday morning. It is really a very thought-provoking seminar, to say the least. So it's a very good, successful seminar from that point of view. Thanks to Sajida and all her team. And to also think like this of the next steps, I think, in very concrete ways is also a very good thing. I've put down 3-4 things that I want to suggest. One is putting together or collating all the presentations done here. I don't know in what form you can do it, but then to say, okay, these are the studies or these are the details of presentations that got discussed, and maybe if I don't know if you had rapporteurs here who took notes and who did those kinds of things, then it's a very good thing. Not really a seminar book proceedings or anything, but something accessible also for recording sake. This is almost like a small one, and this is the second in the series you said, so it'll be good to have all that documented. And also, I was thinking there are many studies which were focusing, especially today, starting with Reha Sharma, then Kartika, and so on. Very focused, but very relevant to the topic on hand, and which will guide you further as well. And they're all very closely monitored or thought out, planned studies. So we shouldn't sort of let that go by thinking, okay, it's just a PhD study or it's just a small project. So I'm just wondering whether there could be an annotated bibliography developed in Kerala about all these studies. Somebody will have to collate it, somebody will have to make short abstracts of it, and then develop that in the form of a book or whatever. So an annotated bibliography and collating this seminar is one suggestion that I have. And then also particularly look at what the pointers are from the studies that were presented. I can clearly see from what Manjima did yesterday and Kartika said today, Reha and Chelsea, very, very clear pointers to what we can do. And they have put in a lot of very, hard work and very professionally done work. So I'm sure when Chelsea says these are the things for teacher education, implications, for example, I think we need to just collect implications from all these studies and see where we are and then take it seriously. So I have those kinds of suggestions. And then that will also give you an idea of what other micro studies, I'm calling it micro to focus on the classroom, the teacher, and learning processes and so on, and macro for more broader kind of things. So it will give you pointers. If you look at all the implications, then say now these 1, 2, 5, 8 or something is something that we can immediately work on. So that will give you a research agenda for the next 2 years, 5 years or whatever. And then, so this is one thing. I also I think Leena hinted at this, while there is academic research and it's very important, academic research has its own limitations, because a researcher, I don't know if Chelsea is a teacher, I'm just taking your example, Chelsea, I hope you don't mind. I don't know if you have been a teacher, you went and did teacher training, but it's done for PhD and it's academic research. But I would also like to strongly recommend practitioner research. So teachers doing research. We heard teachers yesterday, their voices yesterday. And this afternoon at lunchtime, I continued my conversation with Sandhya from Trichy, not Trichur, Trishur. And I learned a lot about TTIs and aided what's happening, what is the kind of work they do, and so on. Those voices are very important. But so I would like to recommend something like an action research project for teachers. And we have done quite a lot in the country and elsewhere. And we have documented teacher stories about what they did and looking deeper into their own classrooms, and you're making them autonomous. You're making them reflect. You are making them think aloud about what's going on, and also involve learners in the process. So you're actually giving them voices, both teachers and students, and you are elevating them to a much higher level, even with one round of research. So I would like to really see if that is possible. And Kerala I have worked on a lot of action research projects in the country. Not one teacher I have worked with from Kerala. So that sort of is painful for me. Nobody is willing. Nobody. I've contacted several people. Would you know one teacher? Some teachers came to some workshop in Cochin, but they disappeared. In the sense, I haven't seen them since, or I haven't worked with them. So that's not okay. Well, if I can work with Telangana or Punjab or Guwahati or somewhere else, why not Kerala, really? So I would like to urge all the teachers here to take up this kind of a thing, and or we can help you with that. Not a problem at all, because you have to begin somewhere. So practitioner research and their voices and producing their research reports, because you talked about how academic research, you do research, but you don't publish, you don't write up. Teachers have, in fact, more difficult challenges because they have never written about their classrooms, or they have never talked about their classrooms in such a obvious way. So that is another language, but it's a very easy language. They just have to reflect on it. So we can, I think those kinds of things will help. And at the moment, we have a British Council funded project where 30, 40 teachers are working on multilingual education, the issue or the challenges of multilingual education in 3 different states. One is Tamil Nadu, another is Guwahati, and the third is Warangal. So lots of interesting things are coming up from that project. So next year you could also be part of such a project. Whether they'll have a multilingual focus or not, I don't know. I'm supposed to be a consultant for them, so I'm in touch with all of them, helping them and so on. But I really would like to see my Vakkom Moulavi Foundation maybe getting that kind of a thing to enable many teachers to do that. And then, of course, teacher training. I think we clearly need a teacher training module or a full course on second language pedagogy, multilingual pedagogy. Call it conceptually if it is different. Don't call it multilingualism, whatever, it doesn't matter. But teachers need to know how to include learners, full stop. Include their languages, their learners, and inclusivity, I think, is really the key. How do we do that? It's a pity that we have still not introduced this kind of a component in any of the pedagogy courses at the B.Ed level. I tried quite hard in Delhi University Department of Education, but then it's a very big thing in the sense I did do what do you call it, very unofficial courses. To do it officially is a big task in Delhi University because it's a huge university and everything has to happen from the top kind of thing. So it's a bit of a problem. But you do it in TIS. Okay. I think then if you do it in TIS, then it's best to take that model and see how it applies to Kerala, applies to another place. So TTTI is for a TTTI, right? Should be doing this in their institutes and so on. So you need that, and you might have to have a dialogue with NCTE on this. And NCTE has a provision in their new ITP programs for 60% something fixed, but 40% is sort of flexible, so open. So I don't see why multilingual education can't form part of that pedagogy. And there's a debate going on. But then I tried to make this point yesterday. There has been a gap between the national education policy, the new one even, and implementation. Why are they taking so long to implement all these kinds of things? So when you ask for introducing multilingual education as a module, will there be resistance? Will they say no, not at all? Or what is it? The present chairperson was my colleague at the CIE, Central Institute of Education in Delhi University. So if you want any kind of dialogue, any kind of meeting with him, why not this, why not, please ask me, I'll take you to him. And he's a nice guy. He's very accessible, and then he'll consider, and he wants to do good things and so on. So NCT is one thing you need to work with. The other thing that Multilila project showed us is a big thing. is to capture what students know, what students do, what's going on in the classrooms and all that. It's large scale studies. I personally have some issues with such studies where young learners are tested again and again and again. I'm a young learner person in the sense I'm passionately interested in this young learners thing. I went and did a master's in young learners English language teaching, and then I really thought assessment will have to be really child friendly, really very informal, really not print based but picture based and story based and listening and so on. So when we have to get data like what Multilila has got, we have to go and do assessments of very serious kind. So I don't know if you people want to set up such a study, but then definitely people like Leena and me, Minati and so on will support, help you with how to set it up with whatever changes. And I think about funding, I know funding is a huge issue, but then there are organizations which say, why don't you ask us, kind of thing. So I think we should ask such people and get the funding, and maybe small fundings. Even British Council, DFID, for example, gives you funding. You need to make a proposal, you need to submit it, all those rigmarole you have to go through, but it's possible. And you need a big team. So when I suggest all this, your teachers will be part of your team, your researchers will be part of your team, and then CDS colleagues. And so it's a whole collaborative team of various kinds of stakeholders, include parents in that. I think it'll be very good to do that. Last one is intervention studies. Again, I have a small issue with, because typically it excludes some students. The control group people get excluded in intervention studies. So I'm basically an ethnography approach person, and then I know it is not scalable, but then if you want to do that, we'll have to think of how to do. But they are also important. But then maybe to start with ethnographic type of studies, classroom descriptions, narratives, and everything, and then set up a study which you can scale up. In all of this, I'm trying to suggest that it should be, develop a kind of, in this whole enterprise, a community of practitioners or community of practice, where even the beginners, novices, call them what you like, can sort of have an entry and they learn in the process. So it is not like, I don't know anything, how will I do research? It's not to be seen like that at all. Everybody is part of, we all are educationists, whether you call yourself an economist or whatever. The teachers are, of course, educationists. So everybody has a role in it, and an important role in it, and we can learn as we go along. So community of practice is what I'm trying to suggest, and collaborative rather than individual research, because like Anusha said, why should everybody start with a topic and then collect data and then do this? Of course, it has to be done, because if I want to make sensible interpretation, I need to get the data myself. I can't look at somebody else's data. But I can easily see how TTIs can come together, and one TTI does one bit of work, another TTI does another bit of work, and you collate them all. So it's all teamwork. I think there's nothing like teamwork. So you can sort of, share work, and then share findings, share your writing it up, and everything has to be done. So there's a lot of dialogue in the whole thing, and then we keep growing. So I don't know if I made any concrete suggestions about what you should. So these are my very rough ideas. Thank you.
We're in danger of not meeting the 4:00 deadline, so we'll hurry up. Yeah. So just a very few brief, quick thoughts so we can wind up. One is, starting with the question, Manjuma, you asked that, but even the language we think of, there are experts sitting there and we need methodology, right? It's a comment. I think it's a very important comment on how this is so clustered and asymmetric, right? So there are clusters of experts, quote unquote, and we have to look to them for methodology. Now, if you use the language of you can acquire it but not teach and learn it, right? The language from yesterday. Can methodology be taught and learned? We seem to chop it up and teach it. But on the other hand, if you think of it as something to be acquired, and then who are the experts, right? And so I think it could be, I think we fall into these tracks of hierarchies, and they're real. So I'm not, but I think it's more of, it shows us that our practice is very different from, our imagination of these things, right? So, so in the way in which I think you started off, Manju, by saying, if we can have platforms where people share and then people comment on methodology rather than here is methodology, I am the methodology expert on whatever, this, that, and the other, which is the current way in which it's done. So a lot of these methodology courses run by ICSSR and so on are very top down, very chopped up. And I don't think they will agree that it's acquired. It can be taught and learned and packaged and chapterized and applied, right? And that too needs to be questioned. So if it is acquisition, then how does one go about acquisition? Through a community of practice. I think this point. I think sometime back VMFT had also run a talk and a seminar on this, on teacher researchers, and I think there has been some concerted effort to try to do this. So I think all of this points to try to slightly break this idea of research with, I mean, there are several people here who would not be familiar with some of the language used in many of the sessions, right? Even if speakers tried. Now, what does that mean, right? There is a certain way in which expertise becomes casually hierarchized, and so we have to be very careful here. I really think so, so for example, we talk about anxieties, right? This was entirely done in English. We had reasons to. There were some people said they were anxious, right? But if it's so difficult, right, for us to actually change our ways to actually make it multilingual. So I think the gap between what we aspire to and what we do, the very people I know many people who talk about participation, but right, it's not that they don't practice it. We fall into habits which are non-participatory. Even if you look, for example, at who asked questions and who didn't across 2 days, right? And of course, there are many people diffident, right? And they don't, right? So we, of course, we can keep saying in class, those Malayalam medium kids who are marginalized, this, that. I think maybe Karthika, you mentioned this point very deeply, right? So it's not about that. So I want to make a plea, since I have the mic briefly, to say that I think examining one's own practices, right, is very important. And every one of us, I think, is complicit in this. We have reasons to rationalize it, right? And we rationalize it in order to. But I think so this is just a self-reflective moment. I'm also very much complicit in this, and I think the way out is a community of practice. How does one kind of decenter this expertise and methodology business? I'm not saying that there is no thing called that, but I think we run the risk of replicating the hierarchy, whatever we say, right? Oh yeah, let me learn from experts. Right? I think it could be disabling too. I think this is, it could be disabling. Many of these methodology things, right, increase anxieties. And destroy whatever creativity a person has, because very much worth contesting, no doubt. So that's just something. So I think the suggestions which have come right now from everybody may point to some other way in which we can do this, right? But I do think that people who say these things routinely don't practice it, only because we have blind spots, right? It's not that we are hypocrites. I can say surely for myself and many others who have observed closely. We fall into habits. I mean, we all breathe the same hierarchical air, right? Whatever cognitively, intellectually we say about emancipation, right? That air affects our practice, not our intellect. So, and I saw that in the seminar as well, and naturally, right? And I'm very much part of it. So this is, let me say, so that's one. So I think this community of practice, where there's a slight loosening of hierarchy, I think is terribly important. Second, quick point is, I think we know forever about multilinguality and participation and construct this, that, and the other, right? I mean, there is generations now, right, of knowledge on this. But I think we know so little about why the system is resistant, right? The parents are resistant. Why is this not entering the teacher education system? Even if it does, I don't know how much difference it will make until, so that larger issue, and again, to Karthika's presentation today, right? There's something deep-seated, right, which cannot probably be changed just by saying, look, there is this better theory in which we need to be more care-oriented, right? Care can be, it may need to be intellectualized, but I think the intellectual question is, why is care not entering into the larger discourse, or it's being co-opted at best, right? So I don't think we have good answers on why are parents so resistant. They still want English, whatever the tuta futa English is taught, right? Or they still want this, that, they still want marks, they still, those same tribal kids in many places, right? I mean, I've at least from other places, I've worked with Gond and, Bhil communities. It's everything, the modernity is a deeper issue, correct? And a bandage of, let's teach multilingualism, a band-aid on a fundamentally modernist aspiration. I mean, how far that band-aid will drop off the moment it can, right? So I think there are some so the implication, this sounds a bit abstract, but the implication is, I think we need to ask the question, right? Why are these things seem almost a consensus among progressive minded education researchers who've not been able to move the needle much at all when it comes to people's, right? I mean, we only research. So now we need to research why our research is failing, right? That is the research we need to do. Failing in terms of changing practice. And those may be fundamentally different tools, methodologies from what we are familiar with. Right. So that to me, otherwise this will continue. Right. I don't know if there is any more point in further researching multilinguality and its nuances, when in fact it's been known for years. I mean, sure, you can, all the experts can discuss all the nuances of the language. No, it's not multi, this, that, it's trans. But the fact is, nobody out in the outside world seems to, care. Why do we not research that? So I think we have to step out of education research to do good education research. We have to understand social discourses, real world casteism and political economy to understand why this resistance is, right? So I don't think we currently can answer the problems that Karthika put forward to us. We don't have answers to that. Why is it, right, that it is? So I think that's the kind of research we probably need. Let me stop there.
We can wrap up. Obviously, there are a couple of ideas that Rama put forward, like, having something related to the seminar, but in a highly accessible manner. And we have to think of what is that best format. I mean, from our point of view, VMFT at least, it's not just the research, but it's fostering some real public discussion about these issues, including in order to uncover why is it that we are resistant and why not, so it may not be the best, but tuta futa chalta hai, at least it delivers something. That's what many people think. But what we have to do at least is to take it to a broader audience in a more intelligible manner. And that audience includes teachers. You said we should do teacher research. We've tried a lot, but what I've come to see is that there is no incentive for the teacher. no compulsion for the teacher. So, yeah, the most dedicated may come forward, but they find it then hard to implement any change in their classroom. But anyway, I think teachers is an important constituency, but parents is an important constituency, and the media is an important constituency. So community leaders, we need to get to them. These are the ones that are setting up the small unaided schools that, just replicate what is in the government schools and so on. So there's a broader audience to reach with intelligible research that they can understand. Suraj has raised a huge number of issues, but it's something we always struggle with, right? About how to get participation, how to do it in a multilingual context. All those things we do struggle with, and what I took away from the discussion with the students was, or the issues that you raised, is there seems to be a need for a safe space which is away from the direct gaze of your researcher advisors or whatever, and it's not just for meeting some requirements of research, but to be able to ask some questions and get some answers. The only thing is, if you start thinking, oh, that's a wrong answer, and then I will go and tell that to my research advisor, and that will actually give me bad marks, So there's a whole, we have to understand why we are doing this and what we are organizing such workshops for, if we do organize them. But I also agree with Suraj that just having some research methodology course by itself is not, it's probably being done all over the place and may not directly help. But Manjima she was the one who first talked to me about this, that, people don't have good ideas for research, or they have ideas, like you all said, but they don't know how to take it forward. And there's that stage in which they need to be helped. So let's see how much we can do with that. So just before I close, I'm also going to thank everybody. So just a few minutes to just thank, first of all, our outstanding audio team, Abhishek from VMFT, but also a CDS team whose names I don't know, but I'm going to mention, yes, Emmanuel, who has also managed a lot of the logistics, your own accommodation, and so on. And then there's the core team, Manjima as seminar coordinator, Aina, who's been the face for all of you and has done absolutely stellar work, Aishwarya, there she is. Yeah, there she stepped in. And from CDS in particular, of course, Suraj, Devika, who could not participate, but who had been helping all along, Professor Veeramani, and from TIS, Padma and Anusha. So we are the three organizations. And then I need to thank people from VMFT who are not here, but Professor Jamila Begum, who is on our board. And there's a whole number of people at VMFT office whom you have probably interacted with, but they have been holding the line behind the scenes, Lakshmi, Ashwati, Vidya, and then Jabina teacher, who has been a coordinator for many of the teacher-related partners. I hope I haven't missed anybody, but if Dr. Suresh Kumar and Nisha and Sandhya, they're also part of our teacher group who have helped to mobilize teachers for this meeting. So I hope I haven't missed anybody else, have I? Yeah. So thank you once again for coming, for those of you who came from far and are going back to terrible climates like Delhi. Thank you for coming despite many difficulties. And thank you to all our audience also for participating. Bye-bye.
Yes, and biggest thanks to Sajita. I forgot that we forgot to thank her. So she is. I've seen this long process over several years, and this has the passion is clear. So thank you.